Well, I've been a bit of a critic of Lex Fridman. He likes to have sort of controversial guests on, and I find he's not good at actually putting any pressure on them.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Bulletproof for BJJ podcast. What podcasts are you listening to other than ours? We both listen to podcasts. We love them. And so we thought that we would talk a little bit about our favorite podcasts recently that you might enjoy and benefit from. So tell me, Joe, you brought this one to the table and it seems like you had something to say.
Well, I've been a bit of a critic of Lex Fridman.
Okay.
Personally. I mean, I really love Lex.
Sure.
You know, like I don't know him personally. I think I rubbed shoulders as he stormed by me at the ADCC after party, and I was like, oh, he's a cool guy. That's Lex Friman.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate his show, you know, but I do find often he likes to have sort of controversial guests on, and I find he's not good at actually putting any pressure on them.
Yeah.
He just kind of lets them go. And so what I've sort of realized is that when he's got a guest on who's very intelligent, great speaker, got something to say, that's a f***ing sick app.
Right.
Because they just run with it.
They unleash.
But when he's got a Kanye or, I don't know, some other f***wit, they just run with it. And you're like, hey, that shouldn't run with it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
At least in my view. So
Yeah.
I stumbled onto, and I don't know how, doing a bit of driving over Christmas,
Yes,
and
yes.
it's funny, right? There's so many podcasts out there.
Of course.
Like there's like at least 12. And
Minimum.
And like, there's so many, and they're on everything you want to know about, but still I struggle on a daily basis to find an episode I want to listen to.
Correct.
Like I have my usuals that I go to,
Yeah.
but say they release like whatever, once a week, couple times a week. So it's like, there's nothing
I
new.
need something every day.
Yeah.
I need my podcast fix.
Anyway.
Some could say the same of us, Joe.
They could say the same. Dudes, we got to work at some point.
What are you talking about? This is the work. But yeah, man, I feel you. Here's the thing. So before we get into Lex.
Like when you get on Netflix and you're like, there's nothing to watch.
You're scrolling. There's millions of things to watch, but then you waste an hour scrolling. Yeah. That's actually, anyway, I won't digress. What I was going to say is, so Diary of a CEO, I'm not going to recommend that podcast. If you want to have a look, you can. The guy's boring. He's smart as shit. He's boring. I want to meet him and be like, hey, bro, apart from being like really smart and asking questions, crack a fucking joke, bro. What the fuck is wrong with you, dude? Get a personality.
There's a solemnness.
No, but he's very monotone. He had Busta Rhymes on, right?
Right.
And Busta Rhymes, it was a good interview because Busta Rhymes has had a very colorful life. But I almost crashed the car from falling asleep from listening to if you want to fall asleep at night, listen to the Diary of a CEO. The guy's smart, read his books, whatever, but that podcast, man. Like, sorry, I'm taking this sideways. Podcast you shouldn't listen to. But this is the difficult thing, right? You get someone who's really intelligent and you're like, wow, these people are unpacking heaps of cool ideas, but they don't necessarily deliver it in an entertaining way. And I think that idea of like knowledge and entertainment is kind of important.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say that like when you get someone on who is a speaker,
Yes.
right, in some capacity, then they're usually going to be good because speakers understand engagement.
Yeah.
Whereas you get someone on who's strictly an intellectual.
Yes.
Or like Busta Rhymes, who's like a musician.
He's an entertainer.
Yeah, he's probably not. He's not been training his whole life on how to keep people engaged while discussing things for 2 hours.
No.
You know.
No, but I mean, it wasn't Busta. Busta was bringing the
Full respect to Busta.
Busta Rhymes. Busta Bus.
I saw the funniest meme yesterday. I don't remember what song it is, but there's like a little kind of it's like a Busta Rhymes track where the kind of music simmers down and it's just him rapping at hyperspeed.
Yes.
And he's going on for like a minute, and someone's put Dilch sent to me a clip of 2 fried eggs in a pan, like cooking really intensely, bubbling away.
Yeah.
And there's the 2 yolks.
Yeah.
And then they've put a little hole.
Yeah.
And you know how the eggs, spit
through.
and the mouse bubbling to Busta Rhymes is
Clever. No, I think it's one of those things that I listened to that episode because I saw a clip from it and I was like, oh, that looks good.
Yeah.
That clip was the best part of the, you know, when you see the trailer for a movie and you're like, oh my God, that movie would be great. But the trailer was all the best parts of the movie.
Yeah.
So that 2-minute clip was honestly the best piece of that whole interview.
That one thing they do a good job of on that show, they have a good teaser.
Yeah.
Coming into the app, it's a little bit. It's kind of like a movie, like the music and stuff. It's all a bit too dramatic,
Cinematic, and the way they structure it.
But it is. I do find that impressive.
So, do you have a favorite Lex episode? You were recently. You've talked a little bit about this recently, not on the show, but with me.
No, I don't. I don't because I'm thinking like 3 episodes come to mind that I loved listening to of Lex, and they're all quite different.
Rattle them off. Come on.
Well, the first one that I wasn't going to mention today is Richard Wolff, who's
I have no idea about this guy.
He's a professor of economics at Harvard, I think, and he's a communist.
Oh.
Basically, or he's a Marxist.
How interesting.
Yeah, and so he's an American guy. I think he's from like New York region, like he's got the cool accent and stuff.
Okay.
And he's basically like a...
But he works for such a capitalist institution.
Well, he lives in a capitalist society, right? Like you can harbor the views of Marxism while... Like you can't play...
By being a hypocrite?
Well, what are you going to do though, right? You got to work.
Move to a different country, bro. Move to North Korea. I don't know.
It's but he's really fascinating.
Okay.
I love that guy, and so I listened to that, and then I went and sought him out on like a bunch of other podcasts.
Okay, interesting.
Because I found that very fascinating. He is like, so yeah, if you jump on that as like, oh, Marxism bad.
No, I don't think Marxism is bad. It's just...
But many would, right?
It's interesting that he is a professor in New York at Stanford, which is
like Harvard or some shit.
Harvard, money.
Yeah.
Look, people, don't worry about money. It seems it would be interesting to hear him. Yeah,
talk.
Talk, but also just to argue his point.
Can.
Yeah, I can, but I probably won't. He sounds like a hypocrite, but you like him, which I like for you. So Rob Wolf, you recommend that?
Richard Wolff.
Yeah.
That's a big one. But the 2 that I listened to most recently that I really liked, Teddy Atlas.
Oh, yeah.
That was fire.
Yes.
And he just talks about, talks about meeting Mike Tyson for the first time. So he was, from what I understand, he was Mike Tyson's trainer.
Right.
Cuz D'Amato was the coach.
Yep.
But basically, Teddy Atlas was the one holding
on the
pads
mitts
in the gym with him.
Yep.
It took him from, I think he met him when he was 11. When Tyson was 11.
Took him through the Olympics and all that?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he didn't talk on that, but he said some really big things in that. One, and Lex opens with this, their relationship came to an end when Mike Tyson was sexually inappropriate with Teddy's 11-year-old daughter. Tyson was 15 or 14.
Oh, no.
And Teddy Atlas pointed a gun at his head and said, if you come near my family again, I'll kill you.
Whoa.
And that was then the end of Teddy Atlas working with Kuz and Mike.
Right.
And Kuz and Mike went off and continued the career. He talks about that.
Whoa.
He talks about that. The other thing that he says is very fascinating, he says he doesn't believe Mike Tyson's a great boxer. He doesn't believe he's one of the greats. He said he's like a meteor, as in he streamed through. You'll never see anything like that again for 100 years. He is a force of nature. But he said the greats don't rely on the weaknesses of their opponents in order to win.
Okay.
And so where he went with that was, he said Mike Tyson had 50 fights or whatever on his record, but he said he actually only ever had 5 fights. He said he only had 5 times, where his opponent brought it back.
Right.
He said all the other ones he won through intimidation. Right. He'd already won before they'd entered the ring.
But I wouldn't say that detracts from him as a boxer. I would say that speaks to him as an athlete.
Right? Which it does. And he says that's the thing. It's athleticism. It's the power. It's, and this is his opinion, right?
Sure, yeah.
But he said the 5 fights where he faced someone who was,
as good as
better, or like weren't afraid of him that night.
Right.
And he talks about it. He's like, I can't remember who it is, but he's like, one of them, that guy's mum, who he was super close with, died like 2 months before the fight. And he's like, that was the best performance we ever saw from that boxer, because whatever, like that, he goes, that boxer was never able to realize his potential. You could see he was great. Yep. But then he said 2 months after his mother died, the person he was closest with in his life, nothing hurt him more than what Mike Tyson couldn't do anything to him. Yeah. And he's like, and so it's just very fascinating. And I think he's been, he's like, people hate me for saying this.
Sure.
He's got a bunch of haters.
I mean, but he understands the boxing game as good as anyone, but he's also a very opinionated guy too. So it is interesting to see that. Awesome.
Opinionated guys are fun to listen to, right?
Sometimes.
Hard to talk with. Fun to listen to.
Hit that Teddy Atlas in the face. Shh, shh. He'll f me up. He's still got moves, man. I've seen he's got a tutorial on dynamic striking.
Oh yeah.
I think it's like an arm of BJJ Fanatics.
Right.
Like they've got Fit and Strong, and they've got different arms under their entertainment, I believe.
Oh, are they all BJJ Fanatics related?
Yeah.
Those things.
So dynamic striking
Yep.
is their
Striking
arm
piece.
and he moves so well.
Wow.
And I don't know how he must be coming up for 70 or something.
I think so, yeah.
Bro, he's still got the moves.
Wow. He's a really fun guy to listen to because he's one of those people that kind of lives through maxims.
Right.
Kind of like reading a Stoic philosopher.
Man, I'm so pumped because I am hydrated by our good friends at Sodi. Sodi are an Australian brand who are keeping all the best athletes hydrated, or maybe you're just a thirsty human and you are trying to be a bit less thirsty. This is my favorite flavor. This is salty grapefruit, seriously underrated, very fresh. Now, essentially, we are human walking oceans. We need to have sodium, potassium, and magnesium in our blood. And that's what these guys have done. So Jason Kale at Sodi have put together this beautiful product, and you, my friends, can get a discount when you order with the discount code Bulletproof15 for 15% off, and you can stay very hydrated. Sure.
You know, yeah, like
Soundbite.
Talk about something and then he'll like drop the maxim.
Soundbite
Like,
sensei.
Yeah, when they show you who what is it? He's got one from Kuz that he quotes quite a lot, but he's like, when someone shows you who they really are, that's who they've always been. And he drops this constantly.
Right.
And a lot of it, and this is kind of part of the story that he weaves, he learned from Kuz D'Amato.
Right.
And so there's this cool kind of philosophical life journey thing that encompasses the conflict that he had with Mike and with Kuz. But they were also they had such an impression, and Kuz was like a real mentor to him.
Yeah, right.
Even though he was kind of using him a little bit. So
Right.
it's a very fascinating thing to hear him talk on. He's like, you can hear that he's like, I f***ing love that man. I hate that motherfucker.
Yeah.
It's like both of those lines,
It's a hard juggle.
Lex is, Lex loves the love piece, right? Like he's good on that.
Yeah, you bet.
know? Yeah.
And so you said there was a third that stood out to you.
Man, the third was, I just got finished with it. He had a guy on, John Mearsheimer, who's he's another college professor. I don't know what college in Chicago, I believe. But his thing is Israel, Palestine, Russia, Ukraine, China, NATO, World War III.
Holy
Yeah, it's pretty big.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's a lot of stuff to be talking about in geopolitics.
But I don't know.
He's tying it all together.
Yeah, he ties it all together very well, and he's, great. He understands history very well. Obviously, I don't know that I necessarily agree with everything he says.
Right.
Let me be clear about that, because there's controversial topics in there. But one thing he says, he kind of opens with, that the state of the world politics is anarchy.
Right.
And he's like, anarchy actually just means like an absence of hierarchy.
Right.
So he said, in nations, like in countries, we have a hierarchy. You have the state, and they're the big boss.
Right.
And he's like, state's really good because they kind of dictate how to act. Everyone knows how to act, and
That's how it goes.
And they protect the nation, and it's like this agreement. But he says in anarchy, it's kind of every person for themselves.
Right.
So he said, in an anarchic environment, the world, all you can do is amass power.
Right.
Like the only thing that you have to do is
an
amass power,
individual.
because otherwise you are under threat.
Right.
So he's like, your kind of role as a nation then is to amass power. And so he just talks about that.
How about diplomacy and teamwork?
Yeah, but those are all sort of reflections of power, right? Like the diplomacy between nations is often like, hey, I'd really like you guys to consider doing X because, I think it's in the best interest economically. But also it's like, and we've got aircraft carriers parked out in the ocean.
Yeah. Oh, sure. No, but I'm saying more like, for want of a better reason, France and England have hated each other for history. Like, up until a point that it was like, the Germans are coming. Okay, yo, we're allies now. You know what I mean? Like, there's times relationships maybe of convenience or different. There's times
but
when
that's power. That's, hey, we're under threat. We need more. We need help. Help us be more powerful.
Yeah, of course. But what I'm saying is that this idea of just individual nation states and everything else is chaos. I don't know if I fully agree in that, but I know whatever. Fair. It's interesting.
But that's what it is, right? It's like, we're under threat. How do we become more powerful? How do we go from being weak and vulnerable to being strong and imposing?
Sure.
Okay, I need to connect with more nations. Okay, hey, let's have economic ties. Hey, let me help you with this. Okay, cool. Hey, do you want to be our ally? Mad. Join NATO. Sick.
Sure.
You know, and so he kind of paints the whole picture as like, I don't know. He gives more of a less Western biased view of the Russia-Ukraine thing.
Okay.
Which goes back to Cold War, right?
Sure.
Like that whole thing goes back a long ways. Anyway, I really liked it.
Cool. That's cool.
Yeah, big fan of that shit.
Yeah, interesting. All right, that's cool, man.
Topic for our times.
Yeah, it is, and it's far out. There's so much going on there that we're so far away from here in Australia. It's hard to imagine the reality of what it's like to be in those situations. I mean, I was in Poland in 2022, so I did see a bit of the like Ukraine kind of spill over into Poland and how that. Yeah, and it was a bit shocking, man. I'll be honest, like
what you could see, like refugees.
Yeah, it's just basically homeless people in the street, or people driving Uber who probably shouldn't be driving Uber. Like, just wildness.
Yeah,
it was confronting in the sense that I had some imaginary Disney version in my mind that the Polish government would just be looking after all the Ukrainians. No, that's not what the fuck is happening. Oh yeah, you can come in, but sort yourself out. Or fuck off.
I mean, yeah.
It's pretty intense.
I mean, Poland itself seems like a hard place, right?
It is tough. And I think, anyway, this is not to, and this is not a criticism of Polish people, more that the Polish government isn't looking after its sister country, basically.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's not our problem. It is. It's you next, bro. Like,
Yeah.
don't get it twisted. Yeah, you're part of the European Union, but like, it's the reality is way more confronting than whatever we see on the news.
Yes.
And I think every country I went to, I was smacked in the face by economic realities of hangovers from COVID and homelessness and just all kinds of stuff. You're like, wow, it's really real.
It's true too. Like, it's when you're talking, like when you're listening to people talk about that kind of thing on like geopolitics, like they're talking about it like it's a game, because it is
in a way.
But it's looking at it at that that macro level. It's not looking at like the human experience.
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of like talking about Hitler and the Holocaust and him doing that, and you're like, there's like millions of people being murdered, like massacred while this shit's going on, while this game is being played, which, I mean, you have to be able to talk about it in both ways, don't you? But it is, there's something, like when you listen to, say, a pod like that one, there's something that it can easily become kind of devoid of the actual humanity of it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, man. I mean, look, I'm excited.
Why's that?
We have an apparel sponsor, Parry Athletic.
Bro, George came through, messaged us on the Instagram, said he's been following our program for ages. He's getting stronger and more mobile. And he's got this cool gear company called Parry, and he wants to send us some stuff.
And he told me that his mission was to create the best pair of training shorts ever.
Yeah, he wanted something that he could lift and roll in, and that could accommodate thick, muscular thighs and hips.
And that suits us.
Speaks to us.
Also, what I like is I love the colorful design. It actually looks really cool.
I am the most colorful dude on the mats these days, hands down.
I think the thing that I've loved about it is just it feels good. It feels good. It looks good. And you, ladies and gentlemen, can get a discount when you go to checkout. If you go to parryathletics.com, put in the code bulletproof20 and you get 20% off. Oh, yeah. We caught an Uber to the train station, and the guy who was driving our Uber might have been Belarusian, maybe, but he almost got in a fight. Like, we're just trying to get to the station on time, and he just cut in on another guy, and we thought he cheekily just was like, "Oh, thanks, buddy." He flipped the dude off, and then the dude just drove around us, cut in, got out the car, like, "Get out of the car,
Yeah,
let's fucking go." And this guy was like yelling at him in kind of Belarusian, and I was like, "Oh, this guy's not Polish," like, because he wasn't talking to us.
right.
And usually, you talk to the Polish guys and they have a chat. And so I got out the car. I was like, "Go, bro, don't do this. Don't." I was like, we're in the back. We're just passengers, man. We're trying to get to that train. That
You're
train.
thinking what, dude's like carrying a gun or something?
Well, no, this guy was about to just beat the fuck out of our Uber driver. Like, our Uber driver was just a little skinny rat of a man. This guy was a big, strong Polish dude who was down to bang. Well, no, he shouldn't have cut in either.
Dumb move.
He just didn't even care. But I was like, "Nah, man." And then this guy was like, "Well, I'll nut you." And I was like, "Bro, it's about to get UFC real quick." I was like, "I just want to get to the train. I don't want to borrow this." Like, there is no tolerance here for that. You don't just, in Australia, someone cuts you off, you're like, no, you don't do that.
I'm stewing that shit for the next 5 hours.
Yeah, you follow them home.
Yeah.
Take their address. No, anyway, it's just, what I want to say is relevant to what you're saying about these conflicts. When you go to places and then you see the reality of what's happening to the people on the kind of street level, you're like, man, they don't talk about the shit on the news,
Yeah.
They only like to show this building blew up or this is a great victory, but they don't actually talk about how all the negative effects on everything else around it.
Yeah.
It's full on. But I'm going to flip it. Man, actually, it's funny because it relates to war slightly. Founders Podcast by David Senra. He basically just goes back through history and looks at all the autobiographies of all the great founders of companies. But recently, I think he had been looking at different people who just overcame adversity. He's like, there's great lessons of endurance in this. And there's one which I listened to only 2 days ago, which is about Alistair Urquhart. And he was Scottish, and he was stationed in Singapore. And he ended up, I don't know if the book is written about him, but he helped build the whatever train line, the Japanese death marches. He built the train line in the jungle, which killed hundreds and tens of thousands of people. And then,
What was this, like POW?
Yeah, he survived the worst conditions ever. And then, he's one of the only people to survive that whole situation. But he talked about the arrogance and the ignorance of the English. Like, Singapore's impregnable. No one will ever come and, no one's going to take us out. And then just details all the crazy stuff that happened to him. Dysentery, malaria, all the terrible diseases. And then having to work in the jungle, laying track, naked, every day.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Tell me about where's this track?
It's in Singapore. It's in the jungle.
Right.
And the English originally were going to try and build this track, but they were told, too many people would die trying to build it.
What's it for?
This is for the Japanese to be able to get resources in to help take over. I don't know the name of it. I'm sure someone out there who's more historically minded than me or informed will know. It's quite famous, this train track that they built, because they just basically
to move goods and
right. They made a film out of it, and the spotlight may have been on someone different, not this particular guy.
Kokoda.
No. But the thing is, the crazy thing is, people just didn't know, because the Japanese just captured like hundreds and thousands of these troops and just disappeared them into the jungle. So no one knew what was happening to these guys.
Right.
It was all behind enemy lines. Holy shit, this guy's life, he just survived. He didn't do anything crazy. He was just a survivor, and he was just able to not die, which is basically the requirement. And it's just really puts in your mind that our lives are really easy and that we can tolerate a lot of stress, provided we have a reason to go forward. And one of the key learnings out of it was a lot of the young guys there who were healthier actually died earlier in the journey because they didn't have anything in particular to live for. Whereas the older guys, the guys kind of in their 30s, they had family, they had wives, they had a purpose to not give up and die.
Wow.
And so that was a huge thing. So, yeah, man, I listened to this podcast. I was like, whoa, it was like really pushed into my mind as to, like life's awesome. Like I already think that, but it's just good to have those reminders. And then also, if you don't have time to read a million books, which you probably don't, he goes through and he does deep dives on, all the people who helped build our society to what it is now. Whether it was like, say, like a Coco Chanel or a Yvonne Chouinard, or he just takes somebody who's dedicated their lives.
Coco Chanel's one of the great society builders.
Well, I think great brand builders. No, because he does like all the.
It's more of a business. He likes people who have achieved a lot in business.
But there's also, lessons for life.
Yeah.
And I think that if you look at people trying to do shit in 1837, you're like, oh, what the how did you do that?
Yeah.
And my favorite one of all of them is Sam Zamurray. And it's from the book called The Fish That Ate the Whale. Sam the Banana Man. Incredible. I won't go into it, but it's good. The guy staged a fucking coup to take over, not Peru, not Colombia. Anyway, where all the bananas were grown at that time.
Right.
The US government was like, yo, Sam Zamurray, you got to chill. We don't like this. We're going to install this leader into this country because it suits us economically. And he's like, hang on a second. That's going to raise the price of my bananas like 5 cents a bunch. That's not happening. They're like, stay out of it, Sam Zamurray. He's like, so like literally the head of state or whatever, whoever it is under the president said, Sam Zamurray, you need to chill. He's like, yeah, all right, fine, yeah. Gets a war boat, gets a ton of mercenaries, gets another leader and stages a coup and then supplants them and then gets all this tax-free land to grow his bananas.
So that stages a coup so he can take over the country and they're his bananas.
No. So he does the great thing that past governments have done, which is puts in a leader that suits him.
Yeah.
So he gets the tax exemptions, he gets the free land,
right.
And then he can grow as many bananas as he wants and just outcompetes the largest fruit company in the world because he does this thing. It's so fucking ballsy. Like, I'm not saying it's like this is how you should live life, but it's like it's like he takes over a country for bananas. My guy. It's impressive. So Founders is awesome. Invest like the best. Really smart. Look, if you're into investment shit, I'm not really good with money. I don't have investments per se, but I like trying to learn stuff. And so he's a really smart guy. Invest like the best.
Well, that's a show. Like
it's a show.
You got an episode on there that you can put forward.
Well, actually, they did a thing. So recently, Charlie Munger passed away, who was Warren Buffett's investment partner and the quieter of the partnership.
Yeah.
There's an interview on there from actually a guy called Patrick Collison, who's one of the Collison brothers who helped found Stripe.
Right.
He interviews, it's like Charlie Munger's last significant interview.
Oh, wow.
They put that on there. And Charlie Munger is just basically, in an hour and a bit, drops all the super solid wisdom on how you should approach business, investing, all of that.
How cool.
It's incredible.
Yeah, right.
Because he literally, I think he dies only like 1 or 2 weeks later.
Wow, that's
after
incredible.
That interview.
He's an old fella, huh? Warren Buffett's an old fella too, isn't he?
Yeah, I think Warren's maybe a touch younger.
Right.
Charlie's a touch older. So I think he died at the age of 92 or 93.
Yeah, okay.
But
very fascinating. Warren Buffett, easier to find information on. He's more public in that way.
But
very fascinating way that he operates, huh?
Well, they've just re-released Charlie Munger's Poor Charlie's Almanac, which was a famous book from years ago, went out of print, and they've re-released it.
Right.
And look, a lot of people just don't like the advice because it's kind of simple.
Yeah.
Like it's all about not making mistakes. And really they had opportunities.
The best investors do.
Yeah, they had opportunities other people didn't have. Like, because they were able to build a really good moat and a reputation early, people brought them more. They saw more deals. But the truth is, they just stayed in the game longer than anyone.
Yeah.
Like the compounding effect, like they always talk about, if you stopped Warren Buffett at age, 61, he'd only be worth, this many million.
But
you take him to 70,
10x.
it's billion, just because of the compounding. And that really just speaks to that, which is really good. So, yeah, I find that this guy is not an annoying interviewer, which a lot of
That helps.
podcasters are. Patrick O'Shaughnessy. He's a smart guy.
Oh, Jack Hennessy.
Yeah. O'Shaughnessy. Yeah, get around it.
That's the name of the principal in that Key and Peele skit.
Oh.
Hey, Ron.
Oh, we can't pronounce everyone's name?
Yeah, and he's like, Shaq Hennessy.
Shaq Hennessy. Oh, man, I love those guys.
Funny you mentioned that, actually. I did listen to Jeff Bezos on Lex, and I listened to it. It was fine. I was doing some work, and it was just pumping in the background. I can't help but think that Bezos is a little bit of a cock, but has achieved amazing things, right? You cannot dispute that. But that was one where you're like, Lex, like, ask him some shit.
Yeah,
like,
get at him.
Okay, he said that. Now go deeper. Like,
why didn't you ask him why he flew so many private jets to an environmental conservation summit? Like, why didn't you hit him up on that? Like,
but yeah,
call him out on his bullshit.
So, like, there's a nice story that's told there by Bezos. But I learned something about Bezos, not on that pod, but on something else. That what was it? The year that when he became a millionaire, his first million, which came through Amazon when they were selling books.
Okay.
Within a year of that milestone, he became a billionaire.
Wow.
Yeah, isn't that something?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's huge.
He became a millionaire, 12 months later was a billionaire. And this is all based on the value of the Amazon stocks.
Yeah.
Right? It wasn't like cash in
his
reserves.
actual money, yeah.
But yeah, you're like, fuck me. Like, that just speaks to such like a jump that you almost can't fathom.
Yes.
Right? Especially when you're looking at people like, say, Warren Buffett and stuff, who are like, keep playing the game, compounding, and it's,
Well, okay, so this is something maybe some people don't know about, because through that Founders podcast, he's gone super deep on Bezos, right? And I've learned a lot from him doing 3 or 4 episodes around different stages of Bezos's career.
Yeah.
But essentially, we're at the limit.
We're at the limit, baby.
Yeah, so the Bezos number, this is something I got out of it, which I thought was very interesting. He was in finance, and he was looking at the activity on the internet in the early 90s, mid 90s, and he was looking at activity on the internet, and it was increasing at like 2,200 and something % per month. Like, you think about what 10% compounding does over time. He was like, the amount of activity on the internet right now is crazy. And he was in a really good job. And he said, why aren't there shops on the internet? Like, if the internet is growing at this insane rate, I can't remember the exact number, but they call it the Bezos number. That made him decide within his economic, frame of thinking, mathematical thinking. He was like, you know what? I'm going to leave this kind of, I don't know which firm he worked for, but like a Goldman Sachs-esque job. He said to his boss, we need to get up on this internet shit. And the boss was like, nah, man, don't do that. Just stay here and work. He's like, all right, I'm going to leave. I'm going to go do this thing. And I think eventually that guy did invest. But
wow,
Bezos just looked at it and just went, the everything store. That was his vision. He started with books because it was really easy.
Yeah.
And then he always had that vision for bigger things.
It's outrageous. It's outrageous that he was selling books.
Yeah.
To what it is now.
Yeah.
And you know what actually the most profitable of their businesses is?
AWS?
Yeah, web services.
Yeah, which was never planned.
Right.
But it was a similar thing. He was like, there's all these websites. There's all these activity. These people need cloud storage. Like when cloud became a thing, he's like, we'll be the Amazon of that. Away you go.
It's wild, man.
It's pretty intense. But that's the cool thing, guys. You can listen and learn for free from experts. And that's why I think podcasting is such a revolution. Even though obviously we had radio shows, we had TV shows, you can just access the smartest people in the world. You don't have to go to Harvard. You don't have to study at these institutions and learn awesome lessons. So I'm stoked on it. You can't convince me otherwise. It's the best.
Yeah, all about pods.
Yeah, well, we will put some links in the show notes if you want to check them out. I won't link the individual episodes. I will just link the shows.
Fair.
Yeah, it is what it is. But my friends, we love you to bits. We appreciate you being here. And to give us a little bit of love back, if you could please like and subscribe. And also, if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple, wherever, go give us a 5-star rating because it does make a difference in other people being able to see this. So you do that. we'd really appreciate it. We love you a bunch.
See you next time.
Peace.